Hi there. Can we talk about crows? Crows are an interesting animal to tackle because this is a pretty well-known animal. With 40 separate species, they exist in most parts of the world, from the obscure South Pacific island of New Caledonia all the way up to Hokkaido, the most northern prefecture of Japan. The crow is part of the corvid family, a group of songbirds that include the jay, magpie, rook, and of course, the raven. As they are separate species, we're going to stick with crows for today. But if you're curious about the differences between crows and ravens, at least in North America, we go back to a rule about how to tell alligators and crocodiles apart. And look at their face. Crow beaks are small and flat, while raven beaks are bigger and usually curved. Ravens also tend to be larger in size, at least in North America. Don't do this in Japan. The crows there are huge. I think I once saw 3 of them standing on top of each other in a trench coat trying to get into a bar. Due to their widespread range, they're heavily featured in a variety of different cultures. In order to understand why so many of these cultural associations of crows are, we need to look at the behavior and diet of crows. Crows are an omnivorous animal, meaning that it's not a picky eater. It will eat both plant and protein, or meat. They will eat anything from insects, corn, frogs, seeds, eggs, and while not true scavengers, they will also eat carrion. And if you happen to have been an unfortunate member of ancient civilization who just dropped dead one day due to war, famine, or some illness that's easily curable now, well, guess what those crows did? The association of crows with death, the aftermath of battles, and bad omens is seen in many different cultures, from Bav, the war goddess in Irish mythology, who took the form of a crow, to the Hindu deity of bad luck, Shani, who would ride on a crow. But not all portrayals of crows are negative. The indigenous Lenape tribe of North America tells the story of a selfless crow bringing fire to a freezing community at great sacrifice to himself. And a 3-legged crow is a recurring legend in various Chinese, Korean, and Japanese myths, where it ranges from a symbol of divinity to Yatagarasu, a servant of the sun goddess Amaterasu, whose legs represent heaven, earth, and humanity, with the crow itself being symbolic of the sun. But the portrayal of crows that is the most accurate to their true nature is one ranging from the indigenous tribes of the Pacific Northwest to the Aboriginal tribes of Australia, that the crow is a trickster. And while most things we associate with crows is just fears and superstitions, this anthropomorphism of them is not far off, because crows are really fucking smart. Using tools is not unique among humans. Elephants, sea otters, and primates are all capable of this. But as seen in this video, not only can crows use tools, they can make or modify them. In other studies, crows demonstrated using tools to assist them in getting more tools in order to obtain treats. And unlike your hyper child, crows have an understanding of something called delayed gratification, meaning that they can predict future outcomes with the most positive results. And in studies, crows will actually choose tools to help them have easier access to tasty treats over shiny objects or less tasty treats. The fact that crows and their corvid cousins are highly intelligent is pretty well established, but the bigger question is how? So, few things might affect why these birds are such smarty pants. The first one being the hippocampus. If you're like me and you took a neurology class at the community college for a science credit, you know the hippocampus is part of the brain integral to long-term memory and emotions. This is important in a person's well-being, so much like how your history and experiences of internet activity is gonna make you avoid a guy wearing a trilby who uses terms like epic win and devil's advocate and om nom nom. Crows will avoid things they have had negative experiences with in the past as well. Crows have a very large hippocampus. This helps them in survival tactics such as storing food and remembering which tools can help them do what tasks. But it also helps them know who to avoid. In one study, a group of researchers at the University of Washington would wear a mask when they captured crows for their studies. Not only did the crows after their release go out of their way to avoid and even attack the students if they returned wearing this mask, years later after the initial task, they still showed malice to their perceived tormentors. But here's where it gets weird. This study took place in 2006. Not only were these crows still on a vendetta 6 years later in 2012, but studies suggest that many of the crows going after these masked bandits had not been subjected to this mistreatment. Some might have not even been born yet when the experiment was going on. Meaning, not only did these crows have a fantastic memory, they were teaching and sharing knowledge with one another. Crows are a highly sociable bird, with crows being monogamous and not only working together to help build a nest and raise their offspring, but also with the older offspring of the crows helping out as well. They'll work together to acquire food, and various zoos and rescues have observed captive crows sharing food with curious wild crows. We tend to view the animal kingdom as a vicious, unintelligent, dog-eat-dog world, but the truth is, social, cooperative, and even altruistic behavior is indeed part of many creatures' lives. And while crows can talk, weirdly...
Stop now! Can you read that bird? Stop now!
Society as a whole needs to realize that measuring intelligence should not come from the mastery of language. Many of the problems solved by these crows are skills a child can't figure out until they're between the ages of 5 and 7. Crows are one of the many animals that have adapted to life in human environments. And another animal we shouldn't so easily dismiss because 1,000 years ago they ate the corpses of Roman soldiers or something. These birds are intelligent and show skills and traits I personally think we should emulate more of. Well, except for that one. No, let's not do that. That's all for today. But before I wrap up, I just want to thank everyone for their ongoing support of the show. I wanted to update you all on my current situation. I have settled into New York and I have found gainful employment. But I want to keep making these videos as I do get a lot of joy in teaching animals to people I can say bad words in front of. So, as a reminder, if you're enjoying these videos, subscribe so you can see when I post them, and please share them to any fellow nerds out there who like this sort of stuff. Also, I'm trying something new. As I've mentioned before, I don't make any money doing this, and the money I do make goes into paying the fantastic people who help me make this show a little more magical. So from now on, if you donate to my Ko-fi page in the link below, not only will I give you a shout out on my episode, but if you leave a funny message or question, I will read it out loud. I won't police the questions you ask, but I will say this: if you're going to be a weirdo and ask questions that clearly violate social norms and boundaries, you better buy me a lot of Ko-fis. Ko-fis and my ability to answer the questions are not legally binding, my dudes. That's all for today. Thanks for letting me talk about crows.